Thanks for joining us for Studio 21. For the next minutes, we'll be visiting with Bill Horton, who is the Director of Campus Police for Tulsa Community College. Bill, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure being here.
When we talk about Campus Police, who are these people and where are they?
Campus Police evolved over the years. At Tulsa Junior College first and now into Tulsa Community College. It's a group of police officers, men and women that have been dedicated to the profession of law enforcement, and they've made it a point in their lives to go ahead and become part of an organization that they felt was important, not only to Tulsa, but to the rest of the United States, because when you look at Tulsa Community College over the years, we've evolved into being partners in the Oklahoma campus law enforcement profession, and that is now expanded into the international profession. So we are connected. And when you talk about connections, then you have to go ahead and take it to the next level, because we have connected ourselves via mutual aid agreements with all of the law enforcement agencies in the Tulsa metropolitan area, small towns and large towns alike, sheriff's offices, regional partners in homeland security, the FBI, Secret Service, you name the organizations, we're tied together. And these are all, if you'll pardon the expression, cops. But cops at their finest. People that have dedicated themselves to looking at law enforcement from a different perspective, because, you know, campus policing is different. I mean, you talk about coming off the streets and then into the halls of Ivy. And the halls of Ivy have changed over the past several years.
Well, let me interrupt you. And when we talk about a campus police officer, then we're talking about somebody who's got years of experience, maybe with the Tulsa Police Department or other law enforcement agencies?
Absolutely. They are trained at the finest academies in the state and or otherwise. They may be coming from a different organization, a different outside organization as well, but aligned with the law enforcement profession.
And all certified?
Every one of them certified by the state of Oklahoma. Naturally, that's something that I make a point of, to make sure that they know the law in the state of Oklahoma, especially, and that's important to each of us.
And do you guys carry firearms?
Definitely, yeah. We had to, and we always have. I believe that the administration here at Tulsa Junior College first, as the transition was made during years past, they felt the need to ensure that our students could work and function at a level where they weren't having to worry about leaving the campus or coming to the campus without worrying about getting a hit on the head. That was not part of the agenda. They wanted to go ahead and know that the kids and also our faculty and staff could come to work in a safe environment. And fortunately, we've remained that way. And I say fortunately, and there's something that we need to go ahead and say here. It's been a team environment. Students, faculty, and staff working together for the past 42 years. TCC's Campus Police Department can't do it by itself. It's a job that, because of the size of the campuses, by virtue of the number of students that we have on campus and the number of classes, we have students from different age groups now. We have children on campus. Everybody's part of it. And when we have an opportunity to do our orientations, as an example, we speak to that. We address that. We go ahead and tell them right up front that you take a look at the crime statistics across the United States, you see Tulsa Community College way down below. Why is that? I've got chiefs, directors of other police organizations asking how we can go ahead and achieve that. And I say it's not us. It's not campus police. We're part of the team, but it's our faculty and students and staff as they're coming in.
It's the environment that you're nurturing of communication here. And for people who are not intimately familiar with Tulsa Community College, we're talking about staffing for 5 campus locations.
That's right.
And
we're then some.
Yeah, and we're talking about evening events, we're talking about weekend events, we're talking early mornings. I see in the various parking lots you have call boxes. How do they work, and how does a student access that, or a faculty member, or a member of the public?
Now, part of our crime prevention system, the emergency call boxes are known as Call 24 boxes, and they are tied into our emergency radio system and are just part of the emergency notification system as well. But each of the call boxes, easy to use, just push the button. We know exactly where you are, and we can talk back and forth, which is really neat, because a lot of our students and staff that use it now have maybe not. They aren't using it for our good friends that may have something to report, like a crime. They use it for a number of different things, like, hey, I left my lights on, or I've locked my keys in my car. Can you help me get in? And that's fantastic, because the more we use it, the more people will use it. And so the emergency nature of a call box, then, as an example, we might have, like last week, we had a call from a person that said, look, I don't know if they're breaking into the car or if they're just locked out of the car, but it looks, and we went on over there, they were actually breaking into the vehicle. When they saw us coming up onto them with the police car, they jumped in their vehicle and took off. We were able to get 3 parts of the license tag. So there's stuff going on the parking lots as well.
What happens when somebody, because most people have cell phones these days, when somebody dials 911 and it's related to something that they are concerned about at TCC, where does that call go? Who answers it?
911, if they dial it on campus, goes directly to the 911 call center in Tulsa. And the fortunate thing is we built a system early in the 1990s which would allow us to also receive about the same time as the call goes through to 911, it's generating another call to us, and we're able to actually listen in on what the call is all about. And this has been a sensational find for us to be able to tie together with the 911 system in that way, because as we're responding to the call, we know the nature of the call. If it's a person having a heart attack, if it's a person that is carrying a weapon. So it's a valuable asset in our tool chest and part of our emergency system as well.
On a regular basis, you give a presentation to students. You go to the various campuses,
That's right.
And it's called Tips for Surviving an Active Shooter.
Right.
That's important stuff, and it's proactive on your part in terms of, this is the world we live in.
That's right.
Because of Columbine and because of Virginia Tech and some other places. If you could kind of buttonhole a pattern. Is there any kind of pattern to somebody who would become an active shooter on a campus?
Unfortunately, there's not. And we know for a fact that some of the people that have become engaged have actually communicated their feelings or what they were going to do beforehand. So, but there's no one indicator. This can be an individual from any part of life that you can become involved in. Some of the individuals are uncharacteristically into themselves. They're into music, they're into different things that they're the loners in some cases, and then in others you see them just blending into our society. And I think the neat thing about what we've learned over the years, and I won't spend any time mentioning names because I don't like, to be honest with you, giving any kind of credit to a killer. And that's what these individuals have become to us in our society. But there are things that students, faculty, and staff can do to go ahead and prevent becoming a statistic.
One question I have is, in most cases, are the victims selected ahead of time, or is this just a random act?
Could be random. Some of them have been planned. When you look at the active shooter, or you look at terrorists, there's some surveillance that goes on. They actually go to the place that they're thinking about returning to, and taking stock of security, taking a look at how soft the target is. And when I speak about targets, I'm talking about the places that they may eventually return to and take some type of an active participation with a weapon.
So this is something you guys pay attention to. Is there somebody who looks like they're, frankly, using a slang term, casing the joint?
Absolutely. That's just one of the things we look at. A person, for instance, that might have been identified by someone else in a classroom environment that frankly, they say, students or staff members might say that a person gives them the shivers because of some of their philosophy, some of the things that they're talking about, how they feel about certain things that are happening in the world. And some of them become upset with some of the things they hear about in the classroom also, and they respond in some bizarre fashion, that type of communication is then brought to our attention. We have at Tulsa Community College something called the Vortex. And it's a group of not only campus police, but also our administrators. It's our faculty, it's other students, it's people that we have become involved in during the course of time and over the course of time in our new student orientations, our new faculty and staff orientations, where we tell them right up front, you're part of this team that I was talking about a little bit ago. And as such, we really, really are looking forward to you staying and maybe even becoming part of our emergency group, where you'll be able to go ahead and report things that you've seen, heard, smelled, whatever. Use your senses and bring it to our attention. If somebody says something, act upon that, report it, document it, so that we have something on it that we can return to later. It may not ever turn up, but sometimes it does. And sometimes we find some of our students responding a little bit differently than we want them to. And that behavior is what we're trying to go ahead and get a feel for.
So many times in life when we face a crisis, things just come out of the blue.
Right.
Is there a length of time that we know we would have an active shooter? I mean, is it a set period of time that in most cases it's 10, 15 minutes? What's that pattern of the incident? How long does the event take place? What time of day? Is there something, or is there a place that's more common than others?
Well, I'm sure if we went ahead and took a look at some of the statistics, we could come up with some sampling. But the reality of it is, when a person finally makes up their mind to go ahead and do something, it could be just randomly. It could be just as easy as just walking in. Now, I'm not saying that the planning hasn't occurred, because something has happened to that individual. I used to, as I was doing a study on workplace violence years ago, before the active shooter situation started arising, workplace violence, there was something that really caused that individual to go ahead and come back. When you're looking at the active shooter, the person that's coming into the colleges and the elementary schools and universities around the country, that may not be the case. They may have been bullied. I'm not saying that couldn't be part of the problem, but in some cases there's just a resolve there that they're going to go ahead and put a stop to whatever it is that they're concerned about in their own being.
For the potential victim, then, you're looking at a situation, there's no rhyme or reason, and this is coming out of the blue at me, and then you have the fight or flight response.
Absolutely.
How can that work against you? How can it work for you if you're a potential victim?
When we talk about the physiological response of fight or flight, there's something else that we need to go ahead and just throw in, and that's being ready. And planning takes on a new way or experience for each of us. We know that there's the sense about every one of us that we now know that there's different things happening in the world. And so here's an example. You and I go ahead and we travel across country, and as we stop at a hotel, we take the time now to find out where that exit is. God forbid there's a fire tonight and I'm at rest. How many steps is it to that exit so that I can get out of the building? Okay, so we're planning for survival, evacuation. We're going to go ahead and survive anything that comes at us. Well, why not just go ahead and take that to the next level? Why not say, okay, I've got loved ones. We've practiced at home, fire evacuation from our own home. Why not bring that to the college? We started doing that. And years ago, TJC, now TCC, brought to the forefront an opportunity for people to go ahead and train, to drill, and become better prepared, better planning, and you will prepare and be better tuned in to go ahead and respond to any kind of an incident, of a critical incident. So with that in mind, then, as you're preparing and you're planning, then fight or flight takes on a different way of experiencing that fight or flight. If you have, for instance, an active shooter coming in, and it could happen just like that, what are you going to do? What I try to do with the tips for the students is to tell them that you've got options. You can evacuate. You can actually get the heck out of the area that you're in. depending upon what's going on. You've got to use common sense. Is evacuation something that you can do? First off, you've got to go ahead and ask, is the shooter too close to you? And if you can't get away, then the next step is really to go ahead and to shelter in place. Find an area where you can go ahead and lock yourself in, turn the lights out, turn that phone off. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to make that 911 call we were talking about a little bit ago, so you could tell the operator where the heck you're located. If you're a student or if you're a faculty member with a classroom of students, what room are you in? You've got to go ahead, and if you've seen the bad guy, to be able to even share that information with the operator. All of these things are going to be critical to the response.
Is there ever a time when you would advise somebody to engage somebody with a gun?
Last thing on the list would be, after you've gone ahead and tried to evacuate, after you've sheltered in place, if you're caught in a place by the bad guy, by the shooter, and they're not shooting at that time, they've just come into the area, and you have an opportunity to go ahead and to speak to the individual and to clearly put yourself in a position where they're not going to harm you, and they decide to leave, lock yourself into the room and just make that 911 call again that you've had that person in there. But as a last resolve, the last thing on the list, if you had a classroom of students with you and this person was coming in, then I would suggest that you have to make up your mind that you want to go ahead and survive, and that you take the appropriate action that you need to take at that time. If that means some of you are throwing things at the person because they can't go ahead and shoot at any one person if they're trying to dodge something, or if you're rushing him or her and putting them in to where they're thinking that they need to go ahead and take cover themselves for a moment just to go ahead and address a certain group. But the idea, the concept of swarming is something new, and it really gives, I think, each of us an opportunity, if we were in a group, to be able to take control of the situation. Now, if there's a gun involved, and you've swarmed and you've taken the person down, you've taken control of his head, you've put him on the ground, and one of you has picked up that gun, you've got to go ahead and get it away from the group. And because who's coming is the police. And they're going to be coming into the scene with arms, with their firearms drawn. And if they see someone with a gun, that's a bad situation, especially if they've been killing people and or injuring people.
Well, that's the question I have: is what can anyone, not only in a school environment, work environment, expect from law enforcement? How will they first manifest themselves in a situation like this?
The entry team will be very, very loud, very vocal, and when they come onto the scene, they're going to be, they're scared. They're trying to go ahead and protect themselves. So they're going to take control of the scene. And they're going to be yelling, they're going to be commanding people, and basically for our students, they need to listen and respond to everything that the officers are telling them to do or not to do. And that may include showing their hands, getting on the ground, putting their hands behind their back. Some may be handcuffed. It's what the officers are controlling at that point. They're going to go ahead and try to take control of the situation. In the swarm, if they've taken control of the individual, each of those people on the floor on top of that will be moved and controlled by an officer, and before that individual is placed under arrest. The only time...
There's a key point here is, I mean, we've got potential victims who are literally scared for their life.
Yes.
You got law enforcement who are trained, but they're fearful of loss of life too. And it's a situation where how do you determine who's the bad person? And there could be victims because of that.
Sure. And there may be victims already from if there was a situation where the person decided that they were going to go ahead and kill others in the classroom and continue the outrage that they've already started, and there are victims laying on the floor. Yeah, that's possible that the entry team, as it's coming in, is looking for the bad guy. And so if there's going to be a response from the people that have taken that person down, and at that point they're going to go ahead and find that the officers will resolve that that problem for them.
Let me kind of recap where we've been. You're talking about planning ahead in terms of just if somebody is in a work environment, whether it's school or not, how to get away if there's an issue. Could be a gun person, could be something else. Is that the most important thing? If people left this interview with that one point, would that be it?
Evacuate?
Yeah.
That would be the main idea. If you can get away from the situation and move as far away as you can, making that 911 call and telling that operator what you've seen, and if you can help identify the individual that's creating the carnage in the school, do that.
Then shelter?
Shelter in place. Take cover. There's a young fellow by the name of Ken Adair at the University of Kentucky at Lexington, and he has the Active Shooter Research Center. And Ken has done a model that FBI is looking closely at, saying that our students really have protection that they may wear already, the book bags as an example. And he's done a study of how those book bags can be used as bulletproof vests, basically, because they contain books and computers and different things like that. So why not use the cover that you have available? Why not, as you're taking the time to go ahead, if you have the opportunity to evacuate and to get away, why not put time, distance, and things between you and the person that's creating the trouble? Especially if they're using a gun. You want to go ahead and put as many things in front of you, trees, cars, whatever, book bag, whatever you can do to go ahead and prevent from becoming a statistic. And that's one of the new things that's come out. So taking cover and using the available cover that you have, whether, if, say like you can't get out. Like I said, if you're sheltering in place, why not barricade the door? Why not take and put chairs and tables and desks in front of the door, and then as you're turning the lights out and making that contact with 911, taking available cover and putting yourself underneath it. One of the photographs in the PowerPoint that we use as an example shows a student under the desk. And I've seen others that have actually put themselves in less compromising positions using book bags, computers, and whatever else they could go ahead and pack on top of themselves to ensure that they were better protected.
The point that I wanted to make is that some people will tell you, well, I'm in a safe location. This doesn't happen at this kind of place. What would you tell them?
It can happen anywhere.
One point that you made during your presentations that I've watched before is trust your gut instincts. Talk about that a little bit, would you?
A lot of our women are more familiar with it because they speak about it more. Guys have the same gut reaction. I think that pride enters in too many times for the guys to respond. But with a woman, you find that there is that response is true, and then they're right as well. Whether it's walking to their car and they get that sick feeling that something's not right and they decide to go ahead and turn and move in another direction. This situation that we're talking about, active shooters, no different. If you go someplace, and it could be one of your favorite restaurants, one of your favorite haunts, if you get the feeling that something is wrong, respond to that and allow your body to go with that, because something's not right. And in particular, I'm particularly interested in the responses that I'm finding from people as they speak about this, both men and women nowadays. We find out that they have definitely been on target, that a crime was afoot, and they sensed something different that just put them in, made their hair stand up. I've heard different ways that they've explained it over the years, and we find that they've been on target. They've been right, so it's the right thing to do.
Bill Horton, the Director of Campus Police for Tulsa Community College, thanks for visiting with us.
I appreciate the time.
And thank you for joining us for Studio 21.